I've been looking forward to this restoration for a while. It's going to be a challenge, but I'm also apprehensive for several reasons. One, this was not designed to be opened. And two, it's not even mine. And three, I made the mistake of looking online and they go for a pretty penny. Do I go ahead with this or not? Hi, it's VTR Dave and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm at the restoration station with my favourite tools and this awesome looking Tinplate Godzilla. You can see there's one glaring issue. He's missing an arm. You could say this is Godzilla -1. The humour doesn't get any better right away in this video. Oh dear. No, you're not seeing double. This is a case of Godzilla +1 now. So what needs restoring? Well, on this guy, we're going to fix the arm, but on this guy, we're going to bring him back to full working order. You see, these are mechanical toys. And if you look on the tail, there is a wire there, sometime in the last 50 years, that's snapped or been cut. On the other end should be a remote control like this. Simply has one button. Let's just open this up. Oh God, that looks a mess. So I'm going to need to clean all of this up, rewire, and resolder. And hopefully, if the wiring is good, we can get all the mechanics inside the belly to work. It's probably seized after all this time. I think this is like the Dino Riders T-Rex. The legs will walk, and I think the mouth opens and closes. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this can actually do. Knowing those crazy Japanese designers back in the 70s, I'm sure they've thrown in a surprise or two. I could just stick a battery onto these wires here and see if this guy kicks into life. Or I could try and tackle the trickiest part, and that's open one of these. And this guy looks like he's been opened already in the past, so that may make it a little easier. Or I could just do what all Brits do when they're faced with a challenge, have a nice cup of tea and a biscuit. And I don't care what anyone says, malted milk are the best. Now, what am I going to do? We're going to open Godzilla -1. The reason these are so tricky to open is because they're made of tin plate and they're held together with these tabs that are bent over on themselves. Now you can see where there's a tab, there's also a hole. That hole allows you to push something in against the tab and bend the tab in. The problem is, it's a one-way street. There's no way of unbending the tab. The only way that I can think of is to use something like this spudger, what are these called? Anyway, these devices to just pry in the gaps where I can, and we'll just slowly, one by one, make our way around, and hopefully I'm not going to break anything while I'm doing this. I wish I could say it was as easy as slicing open a tauntaun with a lightsaber, but it's not. Yeah, this is quite tricky. My next problem is that the legs and the arms are holding the body together, so I need to remove those. But as you can see, I've got these kind of metal end caps. Got to work out how to remove those. Also, there are tabs that are attaching this spine as well. I have no idea how they put this thing together. I'm hoping once it's apart, it will become apparent. Oh, this is tricky. Fantastic. My first glimpse inside. Whoa, that's way more complicated than I was expecting. What is all of that? Right, we'll come back to that later. I do need to work out how to put this all back together again, because I've got a feeling that's just as tricky. But with everything that I've learned from this one, I should now be able to dismantle Godzilla +1. Right, I've actually disassembled Godzilla -1 completely, so now I've got all these parts, but it's been really useful as I now know how to reassemble them. And whilst I was here, I've been able to adjust the body so that it goes back together very nicely with even panel gaps, as I say in the motor industry. I'll keep this apart for now because I might want to salvage some of these parts when I come to restore Godzilla +1. That's right, buddy, it's time I open you up. Now where's my lightsaber?
Hang on, kid. I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Some time has passed. It's the next morning. I have my cup of tea and my malted milk biscuits. A storm is passing through the UK right now at the end of March. The British weather sucks, by the way. I'm continuing to disassemble Godzilla Plus One, but it dawned on me I haven't told you who these belong to. They're good friends of mine. I meet them at the toy fairs all the time. They are Steve and Joe Haynes, better known as Time Tunnel Toys UK. I'll leave links in the description. I just want to say, Joe and Steve, thank you for trusting me to restore these two Godzillas of yours. Anyway, there's a lot to do, so let's crack on. Well, this is a mechanical marvel for sure. You don't see this in modern toys, and it's all held together with tabs as well. It's amazing. We've got a motor here in the middle connected to various cogs. Some of them are going to activate the legs. The legs are connected via these rods here to the arms, so they move in unison with the legs. There's a strange device underneath. I think it's like Star Wars vehicles. I think this is a sound effect, but it doesn't look like the tab here is connecting with the cog, so might have to fix that. We've got this other sprocket thing going on here connected to the power. That looks like it pulses the power off and on. Maybe that is for the light. I don't know what is activating that at the moment. We've got this tube that goes all around the back connected to these bellows, and there's a canister in between. I think that's a smoker. I think this Godzilla breathes fire. Let's see if there's any action. Oh! That's awesome. First of all, I've straightened out this tab here, so we should now have a light that pulses off and on. When the arms are in the body of Godzilla, they are pushed in, and that means that rod overlaps the edge of that piece of metal, and it should activate these two. Right, let's put on the battery. I've disabled the screech because that's just really annoying while recording. Let's just check the light. We now have a light. That is awesome. And I'm just going to simulate the arm moving the mouth and the bellows. Is there any smoke? I don't see any smoke. I've been online, and the trick to re-energizing, if you like, these smokers is something like 3-in-1 oil. So I've detached the tube from Godzilla's mouth. I'm going to pour some oil down the tube, and I'm hoping that will end up in the chamber and soaking the cloth or whatever is in that chamber, and then she'll be smoking again. Well, I hope so anyway. Right, that's running down nicely. That's good. Right, I'm just going to give this a go now. Right, reconnect the batteries. Ready for the noise? Okay, let that smoker warm up and we shall see. Right, so push the bellows. Any luck? Oh my word, the smoke. Can you see the smoke? I'm going to get a close-up. This is awesome. I need to clean off all the grime that's been there for 50 years, make sure the motor and the cogs are running smoothly, and then I think I need to reassemble the body ready for the next challenge, which is the remote control. While I've got the empty shell of Godzilla Plus One, I've made sure that the two halves fit together very nicely. All the tabs are bent back into place. I'm happy with that. But I have noticed that there are some differences between the two Godzillas. The main one being in the spine. On Godzilla Plus One, there are only tabs on one side. It does mean it's going to be much easier to put him back together again. But the spine can sort of squeeze like this. So to fix that, back in the 70s, they cut out some bits of tin so they fit into the spine like so, and the spine no longer collapses. But what I love about this is that these bits of tin must have just come from, I don't know, offcuts of 60s or 70s robots, because you can see all the dials and everything on there. It's so cool. I love that. Quick progress check. The spine is in, the innards are in. I've bent a lot of tabs and so far none have broken. The wire is threaded through the tail. We've got a knot and a retainer so we don't pull the wire off the soldering joints. Looking good. Now this is the tail wheel from Godzilla Plus One, and as you can see it's lost its tyre, and that is why Godzilla Minus One is still dismantled, so I can salvage parts from him. And that way we'll have one really good Godzilla. Oh dear. Stop the jokes. I must admit, putting these two back together again has taken longer than I thought, especially Godzilla Minus One, the little Getting those tabs on both sides, oh, that was tricky. But I'm pleased with the end result. As you might tell, I'm a little tired. It's towards the end of the day. I was thinking about fixing all the arms and legs. I've got a box of them here. But really, I need to tackle this remote control. I need to resolve the mess that's in here. But you know what? That can wait till tomorrow. Here's a close-up of the remote control from the 60s or 70s, along with authentic rust, which Steve and Joe have said to leave. I can appreciate that. It's got one simple button. There's not much feedback on that button, so we'll see if we can fix that. Let's have a look inside. Well, it just seems to be a load of pieces of wire and some tape, but we don't need any of this, so I'm going to strip that all out, and instead we're just going to solder in the wires directly from Godzilla. The remote control is apart, including the body. As you can see, there's a pile of rust here. So I've decided to pull them apart so I can brush all the excess rust off. And while I was at it, I straightened the two halves of the body, so they should fit together rather nicely. Now, you may notice my voice is a little croaky. This is actually a few days later. Since the last part, well, I've had Scuba Pete and Leslie visit, and so we've been doing some toy hunting. I may have had a few drinks in the evenings, and that's why my voice is a little croaky. But I've got my cup of tea. That is good. And my malted milk. And we can crack on with the restoration. Now, I've also straightened the battery terminals, and for the button, I've just reshaped that connector there, so we should now get a little bit more feedback when the button is pushed down. So I think I need to move to the garage so we can do some soldering and some proper cleanup of this stuff. Everything's been cleaned up, nice and shiny. Look at that, fantastic. And I have remembered to put the wiring through the remote control before soldering. That would have been a pain otherwise. I put a knot in there as well, and there's a little grommet just to protect the wiring. The wires are cut to length. So yeah, I think I'm ready to solder. I've forgotten all about this rod. This fixes the legs to Godzilla Plus One, and as you can see, it's all bent. So I'm going to fix that now with this vise. I'm just reconstructing the remote control. I'm very happy with the soldering. My soldering iron isn't all that good though. Maybe I need to get a new one. I'm glad to be back at the restoration station because my garage is freezing. And I've got a nice cup of warm tea. It's hardly surprising the Brits drink so much tea. It's always so damn cold and wet here. Anyway, this is going back together very nicely. I just need to put the lid back on. Hopefully that will be nice and square as well. We're getting there. One complete remote control, and I'm happy with this. Wiring is nice and tidy. Look at the shine on those terminals. And what do you reckon to that soldering? I think that's all right. Yeah, what do you reckon? And would you believe it? That is all the tabs that I need to bend now, and I haven't snapped a single one, so I'm happy with that. And I'm sure Steve and Joe will be as well. Right, I should be able to shut this lid nice and straight. Let's have a look. Yep, not bad considering there's a chunk missing from the hinge. And the button, well, that should have nice feedback now. It's almost as if there's a spring underneath. Time to attach the arms and legs. Here's the leg rod that I've straightened earlier. If you look very closely on the end, there's a tiny little end cap. This one I haven't removed, but the others I will need to replace. Okay, this feeds through the leg. It can be a little fiddly to find the holes. There we go. And then that feeds through the body. And this one in particular is tricky to find. Somewhere in there. No. Ah, that's it. Got it. There's some wires in the way as well, just to make life a little more tricky. Just slot that in there. There we go. Take the leg on the other side. This one should be a lot easier. He says. There we go. Right. And now I've got to get the end cap onto that rod, which is itself another task. Restorations can really kick you in the butt, especially when you think you're done. I had finished assembling Godzilla Plus One, went to test him, and the legs jammed and his mouth wasn't opening. So I've just spent quite a lot of time taking all the legs and arms off again. Thankfully I didn't have to split the body. Some restorations are just more challenging and take longer than others. In fact, in the time I've been doing this Godzilla, I've also fixed Pete's Palatoy X-Wing and Georgie's Necker Chamberlain. Yeah, this one is just a challenge. And that's only one of the Godzillas. We've still got Godzilla -1, who was missing an arm, if you remember. So I need to find another end cap. I've only got 3. Once I've got that, then I can put this one back together. Oh, as you can tell, I'm probably, a little tired. In fact, I am a little tired. So best thing to do is get some rest and come back to this tomorrow when I'm fresh and there. I won't make any mistakes. Yeah. Several weeks have passed. I've got a fresh cup of tea. And I thought I'd tackle Godzilla -1. Now, he had one arm that was detached. And the reason is, it was missing an end cap. Now, if you look at Godzilla +1, you can see an example of an end cap. Now, this is not the sort of thing you can buy off the shelf. Believe me, I've tried. So I've had a go at making my own. I have found these small brass tubes where the inner diameter is just ever so slightly smaller than the diameter of the rod that the arm goes onto. And what I've done is hammered the end of the brass tube over the rod, stretching the end ever so slightly. I then cut the rod to a nice short length, and the other end is narrower. So when I hammer this back onto the rod, it should be a really nice mechanical fit, and the arm will stay in place. Well, Godzilla -1 has finally got his arm attached. I actually went down to the garage just to finish that off. I'm really pleased with my handmade end caps. If I compare them to the originals on Godzilla +1, yeah, that's a pretty close match. And I've coated them with some white vinegar and salt just to try and age that brass a little bit. Very nice. But I really think it's time we saw Godzilla +1 in action. I've really enjoyed restoring these 2 Godzillas from the 1970s. It's nice to actually work with some metal rather than plastic, as I usually do. Just want to say thank you to Steve and Joe for allowing me to restore these. And also thank you to everyone who supports the channel, including all of you that have subscribed recently. I really appreciate that. And I really hope you've enjoyed this restoration. also done in a slightly different style. Let me know what you think. Leave a like, leave some comments. Always appreciate that as well. Only one thing left to say: stay safe and cheers.